Hi, welcome to Radio Karishma. I'm your host, Karishma Singhani. Today we are in conversation with Rajiv Malhotra, who is an Indian-American author and public intellectual who, after a career in the computer and telecom industries, took early retirement in 1995 to found the Infinity Foundation, which focuses on Indic studies.
Sure.
Rajiv Malhotra ji, thank you so much for giving us your precious time. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to be able to talk to you, sitting in front of you and able to interact. You're here for the WAVES International Conference, 13th International Conference. Please tell us how has been the WAVES this year and a little bit about your association with WAVES.
So WAVES started with Bhudev Sharma. He's a founder, and he was in Trinidad and came to the US. Now he's back in India, and I was the first person he approached for an Infinity Foundation sponsored financially in the very beginning. It was in the 1990s. So we started at that time. He was very hardworking, did all the work running around. So that generation of people who were leading it are, they're retired and not involved, most of them. So new people have come and they have moved it forward, moved it to another level. So WAVES is an interesting thing because it's a place where serious scholars come and also the mainstream public, general public who are interested in learning, they can also come.
Yeah.
And so I'm very happy that WAVES has become strong. Now there's an India WAVES.
Yes.
WAVES in India, Shashi Tiwari ji, who is a very, very solid person.
Yes.
She runs it and she's made it even more dynamic than the US WAVES actually.
I'm sure.
The WAVES in India is much bigger in terms of number of people and how often they have events and so on. So both the US and the India WAVES are doing very well.
Excellent. So, you are the pioneer of through your Infinity Foundation, pioneer of this struggle outside India, abroad,
Right.
I can say that. So, how have you seen this whole movement? I'll call it a movement because for a cause. How do you see this movement being evolved?
So, in the beginning, nobody wanted to support me. I went to Friends of BJP, I went to HSS, which is RSS's organization here, VHP America. They didn't want anything to do with it. It was too controversial. They were all involved in their own internal process. Actually, the problem with many of the Indian groups and Hindu groups is that they're all spending their time within the group.
Yeah.
Listening to each other, and outsider, and they don't have much of an outsider perspective. And I'm an outsider to these groups, and the issues I'm raising are also outside the group.
Yes.
In fact, so many of them wrote to me saying there's no problem. We go to a temple and everything is fine. But we're not talking about what happens inside a temple.
True.
See, so they did not understand the ecosystem in universities, in media, in schools. They were happy that inside the temple everything is okay. So that was the state of affairs. That nobody wanted to help from the Indian government. The embassies were not bothered that the reputation of the country is being ruined by all this. Certainly, the academic scholars mostly against us. They were all leftist type people. Parents couldn't care less. They were all interested that their kids should not rock the boat, but they should get into some good place. So people were basically pursuing their American dream as a selfish pursuit.
Yes.
And so somebody like me who's successful wants to say, okay, I'll quit the success and join, start this new thing, was very rare. And when I started the Infinity Foundation, I assumed that in 5 years, many other people who are successful will join me.
Yes.
Nobody joined me.
What could be the reason, sir?
Selfishness. One is selfishness. What's in it for me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
They will join if they feel that I'm an important politician who can get them some value.
Correct.
If I were given some portfolio, they would say, "Oh, he's an important man." The Indians are all chasing important person. The new selfie culture. In the beginning, when there was no selfies, but it was still you want to be seen with the right people.
Yeah.
You want to be, you want to have them over to your house, impress your guests. So it's always about building one's own brand. So Indians are very much into that kind of portfolio managing their relationships. And here is different. Here it says, you're not going to get anything out of it personally, but it's for a cause.
Correct.
You're actually going to give. So the giving is yagna.
Correct.
It is not sauda baji ke what will I get out of it. So that's why the Indians have not been into it. Now Indians will give if it's to a temple, because then they'll get blessed by God.
Yeah.
मेरी बेटी की शादी हो जाएगी.
There is also a selfish interest.
Selfish interest. You look at if you poll 100 people walking out of a temple and ask them what did you ask for? Nobody's there saying I asked for moksha, or I asked for enlightenment of my Hindu culture in this country. We're all asking for, I want good health and I want better job, or I want this problem solved, or whatever. It's selfish goals. So Hindu practice is more like a kind of you're looking for a middleman to be a fixer. So God is the fixer, he'll fix it for you.
Yes.
And you give him some money and he'll fix it for you.
And the middleman is Panditji that we are giving money.
Well, middleman is God, who's a fixer, and then the Pandit man is the one who's access to this middleman, because this middleman is too busy for you. And so his protocol is very complex. No, we don't even know what he wants. Does he want this laddu, or does he want this coconut? 1, 2, we don't know, but this Pandit says, I know all the, I know this weird guy, his particular peculiarities, and just give me some money and I'll fix it for you. I'll appease him and make him happy, and he'll give you what you want. So this is how Hindu Dharma is reduced to this kind of a transactional Hinduism. I call it transactional Hinduism.
So your focus has been the academia. You've been fighting this battle on the academic level.
Side, and then it's academic implications to media, to schools, to government policy making, to civic society.
Yeah.
So from the academic thinking, it goes out to wherever the educated people are, because they're all products of the university.
Yeah. So you believe in that top-down thing, that the academic or the academia need to be fixed so that it trickles down to the lower level. But we have seen in India, when we talk about the Hindu cause and the practices or Vedic practices that has been going on for many years, but we don't acknowledge it as that this is the for the generations, like many generations before, we didn't even know that this is the Vedic tradition that we are following. But we've been doing it because it's been happening for all the years. But somewhere I feel that all that uneducated or simple interior, not attached with any, they have carried forward these practices knowingly or unknowingly.
Unconscious habits, unconscious culture, and osmosis. You learn by osmosis because you're living in a culture where everybody else is like that.
Yeah.
You learn from your mother, your parents, and all that. Now that has done very well in an age when there was not the technology of disruption. But now is the technology of disruption on a very large scale, and so we cannot assume that automatically our next generation and the generation after are going to be fine. Nor is our generation fine, because this is the first time that a very heavily armed, heavily funded counter narratives are out there. These counter narratives were not, there was nobody aggressively evangelizing. Correct. There was nobody aggressively funding revolutionaries and Marxists and Maoists. There was nobody aggressively Hindu-phobic with an agenda to topple this. But now the top-down institutionalized forces have become very strong.
Yeah.
That was not so earlier.
So we need to create the counter.
Yes, we need to create the counter.
So also another thing that I had in my mind, and most of the time, the conversions that happen, all these organizations being funded, but they have a certain, ground to breed what they want to, because they're still the social social malpractices, the poverty,
genuine gripes people have. Not only economic poverty, but social disempowerment.
Yes.
And all kinds of
malpractices,
all kinds of injustice, and these have to be fixed.
Yeah.
And these injustices it's a vicious cycle. These injustices are a result of long periods of slavery and dismantling the Hindu ecosystem of education. So what has happened is that we become a kind of a downtrodden people, a large percent of us, and so they are resorting to solutions outside our own system of thinking, and so you can't blame them.
Yes.
If some Christian comes along and he says, "I'll put your kids through school, I'll get them jobs, you'll be, in one generation you'll move up," then you can't blame them.
True. So what we have seen, till the time there were social reforms in India, like Dayanand Saraswati and all those people. All the movement of, with Hindu or within Hindu society was inward. Now I think after the advent of, a lot of Indians and scholars have gone out, and because of the social media and media, now mostly the battle is fought outside India.
And inside.
Do you think it's enough been happening inside?
Yeah. I spend a lot of my time in India. I've been.
But you have to go there.
Yeah,
that's my point. That from people from outside, we have to go there in India.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that in India, I have to ignite this for Indians. We've created Infinity Foundation India. It's based in Chennai. It's a good organization. We have good solid team there, and their job is to carry this out in Indian universities, Indian media. So I'm finding that the demand, after a couple of decades, the work I did in the US has caught on in India.
Yes,
and now Indians also want this.
So it had to come, that's my point, that it had to come from abroad, people like you igniting the, what do you think went wrong in India? And with the
I think
scholars?
Indians colonized and too much in awe of, you're asking very, very good questions. I'll tell you, if you have been successful in the white man's world here, they're thinking.
Yes.
Okay. If you are at a junior level, you don't know that they're senior thinking because they're managing you.
Yes.
But if I'm an owner who run 20 companies and I got hundreds of these Western people, I can hire them, fire them. I know they're thinking.
Yes.
So I'm not going to be in awe of them because many of them are working for me, and I know their weaknesses. I know how to make them laugh, how to make them cry. I know I've been a collaborator with them, I've been a partner with them, I've been their boss, I've been a competitor, fought them, defeated them. So I know them. It's like the British got to know India that way.
Yes.
When you have an upper hand in a relationship, you really get to know those people, and you know their vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And that's how British could rule over us, because they knew how to take us apart. And we never could reciprocate because we didn't have people who could say, I've had thousands of white Englishmen working for me. But now there are people like me. So it takes those people in the US or somewhere else who have been the boss of white people on a big scale, and who are very audacious about it, and who are culturally savvy, culturally rooted, and who are willing to break away from all this success and invest this knowledge for their civilization.
Yes.
That combination has to be had. So either you have people who have not been so successful, they can't do this because they don't have the confidence.
True.
They don't have the confidence. To me, when a Westerner comes and says something, to me, I know how much he knows, how much he doesn't know. He can bring me down, I can bring him down.
Correct.
And pretty soon he'll realize that it's not a good idea.
You know his game, basically.
I know his game,
yes.
And I'm very confident. I'm good at the game. Also, I feel I have nothing to lose. I'm not trying to get anything out of it.
Correct.
I'm a risk taker. So when you have people of that kind, you need such people to pioneer this work.
Yes.
India, there are not enough people like this, and the people who have been successful, even the big shots, are in awe of the white guys. Even the Ambanis and these Infosys people, Murtis, they're in awe of the Westerners. While in India, they're billionaires.
Yes.
But on an international scale, while they may have a lot of money financially, but they don't see themselves on par with a Warren Buffett or a Bill Gates. They don't see themselves as an equal. They will very quickly apologize, and they'll start using the framework of the other side even to understand themselves. They are not able to reciprocate and say, okay, but this is what Chanakya said.
Yes.
Here's why I can beat you.
Yeah.
And this is what my Vedic culture teaches me, and how I have a better algorithm. They are not that confident because their success is in a Western framework, under Western management, and using Western exports. Their clients are Westerners, so they are also kind of in an inferiority complex, even though they may have more money.
And their education that they have got from India is prepared by Westerners. Basically, they have not got, like we haven't got our own Vedic education in India. How much do you think it's education system, flawed education system, or the political establishment is responsible for all this?
I would say, while that is a problem, but I would say many of the people who are traditional pundits raised in the Pathshala system are equally ashamed of themselves. This is very sad. I work with a lot of people who got a traditional Sanskrit education, and because they do not know how to interface with the global culture, they have a complex that we are not good enough.
Oh.
Because the global culture is considered more superior. And if I want to have my Facebook account and I want to drive a fancy car or have a laptop, all those are Western products, not products of my culture. So the person also feels that the Western system is more superior. So this is why people with traditional Indian education are not fighting for the tradition.
And so how do we change that thinking? Does such conferences and scholars like you,
I think
do they help
see,
in
the conference
any which way?
the conference is good up to a point, because it'll do its job in spreading awareness. I mean, the work needs to be done on 1,000 times bigger scale. You know, you can't just have if this gathering with 150 to 200 people. I know the annual conference that Muslims have in Washington, 20,000 people.
Wow.
So now, why is it that the 3-4 million Indian people, why is it that 150 show up? I mean, they have different priorities.
Yes.
It's not that they don't go in their song, dance, cultural, wasting time all over the place. It's not like they don't have the time. And it's not that they can't afford a few $100s and show up. But this is not their priority.
True.
And also, deep down, they would rather become more white. The Indians have a complex of becoming white. This complex started with the Mughals, then the British made it even more formalized. So the Indian complex of whiteness, not only skin color, but also a way of thinking, culture, etiquette, manners, all of that. But you know, things change when you become a role model. About 15 years ago, my wife and I in Princeton, we started introducing thali. We eat in thali every day. So when people come, and the typical Punjabi culture is very weird and strange to them, because they all want to show their latest something or other. So we also had very, very Indian things in the house, whether it is Indian art and started having, you know, Indian dance performances, and it was considered sort of different for the Punjabi circle. But then soon everybody started doing something like that.
Yeah.
But Punjabis are also good at keeping up with the bandwagon.
Yeah.
So what you need are the people who can create this bandwagon to be on our wavelength. You need to catch hold of such people.
Yes. So I was listening your talk this morning. You were saying that you have seen a lot of interruption, or whatever. I mean, all the obstacles that have come to you, more than it has come from abroad, it's come from India, within. How do you tackle that? I mean, morally, how do you keep yourself up? Because you're fighting against not only just fighting against outsiders, but people within.
Yeah.
People within who you are fighting for, actually.
Yeah, that is correct, and you're very smart. You picked it up very quickly. Also, my friends and family. Also, I come from the St. Stephen's College, which is a very prestigious college, and all those guys are big shots here and there, big, And then my school was also a very westernized school, and those guys are also very big shots. And when I go back, they remember me as a very bright kid. I was a topper and all that, and they remember me. And then I went to the US. I was a physicist and became very successful. For the first 10-20 years of my career in the US, I was a big star in India with all these people. I would go back, and that was sort of their success story. And now, I've become all this weird thing. They don't understand what happened to this fellow, because they don't relate to it. In their value system, this is not so important.
So how do you fight with that? I mean, how do you keep yourself morally up?
See, the basic thing is that you have to have an internal shift in your own consciousness. In a deep level inside you, you need to have come to terms with who you are, and you need to have had that shift where your priorities in life change. So that is why I started all this. I didn't start it thinking it's going to be fun, or it's going to be rewarding, or it's going to be popular. I didn't start like that. So I started because this is my yagna. So you have to understand, what is my yagna, what is your yagna, what is your swadharma, who are you, what is your purpose in this world. This is a very profound philosophical, spiritual journey which starts, and then when you make that transformation, and you realize that if I just keep accumulating more millions of dollars, what does it really mean? It doesn't. What does it buy me? In the big scheme of things, and given my philosophical worldview, do I really want to go and make even more money? What am I doing it for? Whereas if I do invest in my own yagna that has got real value, that is the one thing I take with me.
True.
None of the thing else I take with me. So now once you have had that realization, it's a deep self-realization, then different people end up pursuing different swadharmas. Some are escapist. They'll say, okay, now that I've understood my purpose in life, I don't even want to be bothered with all this. But I say that's fine, but then don't come and interfere.
True.
Don't. That's good for you. So if you want to take sannyas from the world, that's fantastic. But don't be a hypocrite.
True.
Don't be sannyas when you want to escape and then try to get ahead and make become very popular, big shot, because that is not part of sannyas. Yeah. So if you are a real sannyasi, that's okay. I really respect that. I bow down to such people. Some people like me, very rare though, very few, want to take this spiritual dimension and enlightenment and enact it in the world, Vivarika world, Laukika world. And that is where this business starts. That's my yagna.
True.
So I am doing an inner yagna by acting it out outwardly.
Yes.
So my swadharma is to do this, and the swadharma guides me on what should be my swakarma, which means my karma, my action. What is my action going to be?
True.
So unless you are connected from there, it's a waste of time. You because people will beat you and knock you out, and then you will wonder why I wasted my time. And you'll always be looking over your shoulder, and you'll be wondering, is it worth it? Am I making investment? Do I get enough out of it? So I don't have to worry about all that.
True.
Because what I'm getting out of it is my swadharma. I'm carrying out my yagna, and it is the metrics and the yardstick is not in terms of what you think or this one thinks or what they said.
So, Rajitji, so far you've been fighting with very factual things that are happening on ground, whether it's a textbook or whether the wrong interpretation of our values or Hindu Vedic traditions. But on the present geopolitical scenario, what is your view that how important are the Vedic traditions and how India can lead the world with that kind of knowledge that we have?
Before India can lead, India has to fix itself.
Correct.
I mean, you cannot be somebody who's emotionally not in good shape and unhealthy and mentally. We have a lot of depression, we have a lot of drug addiction, we have a lot of violence, we have a lot of rapes, we have a lot of bad things happening in India, which are not a sign of being very spiritually evolved.
Yes.
And we have bad eating habits. The food in India is toxic. It's filled with chemicals. The whole chemical farming industry is taken over. So you see, the thing is, this problem has to be sorted out. This problem has to be sorted out in a very serious way. And unless India can sort it out for itself, it cannot really do anything for outsiders.
Do you feel that sometimes your movement get weakened by all this kind of, very, very negative stuff coming out from India? Do you feel?
Of course. I'm very disappointed by what's happening in India. I think the new government should have done more. It hasn't aligned itself with civilizational change. They've tried to give any such portfolios and any such empowerment to their own insider people, and these insider people are not qualified. I mean, they don't have international savvy. They don't even know what the global discourse problems are and who the opponents are. So sometimes they're giving awards to the wrong people. They're giving awards, recognitions, funding to people who are actually against us. Like we named one or two people yesterday who are sort of really scoundrels for us, but they are in the good books because they know how to talk nicely and get it their way. So we are, a lot of the decision making and resource allocation and prioritization is in the hands of people who are just not qualified. And one of the things the Indian new establishment has not been able to do is bring talent from the outside. They're just appointing people who are from their own old party or their own sangha or their own system because they feel more secure with such people.
Yeah.
But one of the things I learned in my corporate consulting when I was in the corporate world, before I became an entrepreneur and after I was corporate executive. In between I was a consultant. So what I learned, I was doing a lot of turnaround management of very big companies like British Telecom, like AT&T, and they had this old stodgy background like a lot of our Indian parties have. Old people, they'd been around and they didn't want any outsider, and we know better than you, and the good days will never end, and they were very complacent, very arrogant, and my job was to show them that this is just an insider view, but you haven't gotten out to see what's really going on, and you need to bring in fresh blood. You need to bring a certain percentage of all top level appointments should be outsiders who bring in a new perspective. So I found that turnaround management, whether it was done in AT&T or in British Telecom and various other places I was successful, had a lot to do with convincing them that they should bring in outside top brains. Now this has not happened in India. In the BJP, the RSS, all of these people have not yet created a culture of bringing in senior people to bring in fresh ideas, shake things up. Maybe they're too scared, maybe they are threatened, maybe they just want to be in the comfort zone. But that is how the AT&T was at one time. And that is how British Telecom was when they were monopolies. But they had to change. So either change or you'll finish, you'll die. So this is, unless the Sangh Parivar learns to bring in talent from the outside at very high levels quickly, who can help and give them the authority, unless they begin to do that, if they are just hanging on to the old ways because they all know each other, the old boys network, and as long as they keep doing that, I don't think they'll succeed, because the problems are too complex. It's going to take them 20 years to train new people from within. They need to bring outside talent.
So how do you see the main leadership in India? How hopeful are you?
Well, I think Modi is a talented person, but I'm not too impressed by the cabinet. I mean, I know a few of their people. They're just not even very well informed. I mean, some of the things that they have said when you raise these issues, so naive and they're so out of touch with the problem we're talking about. Of course, on the other hand, you also have to concede that the problems are huge too. And what they're facing as day-to-day problems to solve are not that simple. So maybe these are bigger issues, longer term issues, high level issues. They haven't had even the luxury to think about it. But then what they should have done is to create a whole separate civilizational discourse ministry, or a whole parallel, some group that was worrying about this rather than worrying about the water and the economy and the electricity and getting uniforms and weapons for the military, rather than all those day-to-day management things which are very important and consuming them. And also the whole business about winning elections, which is consuming them. They should have had somebody who's got the experience in this whole thing to worry about this, and at least educate them a little bit, and at least build some momentum towards a solution. But they just ignored all of this. And the only times they've given credibility, given some importance to the civilizational aspect, is they brought in some of their own old timers and given them some new responsibility, and these guys have made some bungling mistakes.
So I think the obvious question that comes in all of our minds when we see people like you, Subramaniam Swamiji, fighting, and then we see that, what next? Who's going to carry forward your work?
I am very concerned about that.
What do you do? I mean, what are you doing about that?
As I discussed
is there
today,
any message?
No, I want to institutionalize my knowledge. I want to train other people to be scholars like I'm doing. Not only finish my work, but I want to train other people to do it. So for that we need funding, because I've identified good people. But on a volunteer basis you can only get certain type of people. If you have a budget and you're willing to pay proper market salaries, you can get quality people, and there are such quality people. What I would first do is I would bring them to help me finish my 15 books, and in some cases I would have them help me be co-authors, and this will launch their own career. Because then if a person has helped me finish a book and then co-authored with me on something, then they would be the right person to take it forward and develop many more things. So this would be my way of training successors, but I need funding.
Sure, I'm sure people listening to it, and a lot of people are supporting
so if they want to fund, you go to infinityfoundation.com.
Yes.
Infinity, INFINITY Foundation. one word, infinityfoundation.com. And when you go there, you will see a lot of our videos, you will see a lot of information on what we do, and there's a button called donate.
Yes.
So when you hit donate, you can donate in US dollars, you can donate on PayPal, you can put a credit card, whatever you want. There's also a place to mail a check if you want, and it is all IRS tax deductible. We are a 501c3, so it's tax deductible. And then there's also an option which says donate in rupees. So you click that, and we have Infinity Foundation of India. It is also tax deductible. They are certified by the government. It's called 80G, 80G, which means that you get tax deduction if you give a donation. So you can wire money. There's different ways. There's also a place you can send a check if you want, and that. So we have a dollar option. We have a rupee option. It's a tax deduction. I don't know why we don't have a whole lot more people helping us. We have quite a few, but we need more.
Yes, we at radiokarishma.com, as much as we can, we will definitely promote this, sir. At the same time, if you could a little bit talk about your current project that you're translating. So your 15 books, if you could just enlighten a little bit.
We are translating my 5 books, and I'm finishing writing 15 more. 15 more books, which are already in advanced stages in the pipeline, but I need to finish them. And then I have about 800, 900 videos, huge lectures on my YouTube channel, and we have a team of people busy translating those, putting subtitles in various Indian languages.
Wow.
So it's a huge amount of effort. We have 10 full-time people in India, and we want to multiply it, grow it to 20 by within a year. We need funding, and I have 4 full-time staff in the US. I need to grow that too. Besides these staff people in both India and US, we have many part-timers that we pay, and we have a lot of volunteers.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we wish you good luck, sir. Thank you so much for your precious time, and thank you so much for doing all this for all of us. We really appreciate any which way we can, that we'll put our little ahuti in your yagna.
Thank you.
And you welcome to Dallas. First of all, I don't know how long you're here, but
I'm leaving today in a few hours.
Okay,
but I'll be back.
Yeah, absolutely, anytime, sir. It was pleasure and honor talking to you, seeing you, and hearing you. And thank you so much once again, and good luck with all your projects, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Sir. Namaste.